And thank you so much for being in tune with one of our most famous startups. And Tisha Jepson has been blazing trails. And it's past New Year's actually. But the thing is that we would like to hear from her about what she has been working on and it is quite significant. So I'd really like to um, make sure that she has the platform and the pillars for success. But she has created an architecture and engineering to create really one of the most significant um, platforms for. And I have to tell you something, it's not an easy thing to do for infectious diseases. And and I really mean it, that the architecture and the engineering she has done, which is beyond reach. And I'm very proud of Tisha and her groundbreaking work in the area of infectious diseases and working on some of the most horrific areas that confound our I say because the thing is that uh think about if you have an infectious disease that is bad for your gut. And I'm gonna stop there because she is the frankly the number one person on the planet to talk about it more. And by the way, hand it over to
Rosemary. Thank you so much, Rosemary. It's a pleasure to be here and to be joining this conversation with you and with this Center for Advanced Innovation. Thank you for continuing to support and track our progress over the years. It's been an honor to be a part of the universe in which you support the beginnings of companies and expand their reach and allow for our ecosystem to thrive. And so for those who don't know, my name is Tisha Jepson. I'm CEO of True Bearing Diagnostics, and we are bringing to market an infection diagnostic that addresses initially abdominal infection and chronic abdominal pain. Over time, what we have developed is an approach that looks at the human response. So we don't track the disease itself. That means that we can address infection comprehensively. So while I say that we are addressing abdominal infection today, which is a $30 billion a year market, we can essentially over time expand. Once we have our initial FDA clearance covering abdominal infection, we will then expand to hospital-derived infection, to upper respiratory infection, to joint replacement, potentially to other areas of infection like UTIs, things like that, people that are in assisted living facilities. So what we're doing, when I said it's a host-driven approach, we are, because of that, we're looking at something that is an inflammation-based target, and that allows us to see infection agnostically. And that's why we're able to address across the span of infection. So right now, let's take a look at what that means. People with abdominal infection actually have a situation, especially with chronic abdominal pain, in which they are experiencing months, years, sometimes a lifetime of unresolved pain. And what isn't known and what doctors don't currently have is an ability to, or the tools within their toolbox to know exactly what is ailing this patient. Our test is greater than 90% accurate. It's actually far greater than that. And we allow for doctors to have in the toolbox an ability to determine A, is there an infection present? B, into what bucket does it fall? Is it bacterial? Is it viral? Is it biofilm? Or some combination of a theme? And we can also track the magnitude, meaning the strength of that infection. So if it's present and if there's a bacterial component, then yes, a patient should probably take antibiotics. At the end of the course of antibiotics, what happens now? That patient gets sent home. Is it resolved? Who knows?
Okay.
They come back and potentially have a new infection when in fact, it's a continuation of the old one.
Mhm.
Ergo, the constant months, years, and sometimes a lifetime of unresolved pain. So that's what we're addressing. And one of the things that is so amazing to me is how the Center for Advanced Innovation has been tracking us all of this time, allowing us to present at various events like at the Virginia or with Wharton or with various innovation opportunities in Washington, D.C., across the country, basically, and allowing us to have a voice and to communicate what it is that we're developing and how we are addressing such a huge market through the years. And right now, we're still in the process of development. We have achieved the test. It is ready to be marketed, and we are teed up to go through FDA clearance. Actually, we submitted today a SBIR grant application. We also are in the process of submitting our pre-sub application because we have already, with the FDA process, in agreement on paper, those who will participate with us include the Mayo Clinic, University of Virginia, Children's Hospital DC, Johns
Mhm.
Hopkins University, and George Washington University. So it's a stellar group, and it indicates the incredible kind of agreement within our peer group that this is something that is desired. We have already data sets, multiple publications, and patents, which is very unusual in the diagnostic space.
Oh,
That is as
it's extremely unusual in the diagnosis space. You know,
uh,
our largest uh, diagnostic areas are 385 variables to evaluate diagnostics. And I feel sorry for everybody, but the thing is that we're very, very good at that. And you have done incredible work, and basically it's almost undone.
Thank you very much. It is incredible to see the various startups that are percolating and developing new concepts, new ideas, and new approaches for healthcare for biotech across the span. And I think that when we have groups like the Center for Advanced Innovation and like Rosemarie standing up for us and enabling us to gain a voice, an expanded voice, a presence, and acknowledgement, this enables the investment community to be better informed, to be better connected, to be more proactively enabled to engage with those opportunities that are really incredible. And the Center for Advanced Innovation performs sort of the due diligence, allowing for investors to have a knowledge that it is with this due diligence performed already and the tracking over the years that risk has been reduced. We ourselves have reduced risk as well. Actually, the way that we achieved what we have in our technology, the infection diagnostic, we started, my good friend and I, George St. Laurent, started at GW back in 2006, 2007. We began a lab looking at degenerative diseases from a systems biology perspective, which
Mhm.
means just a holistic perspective. And what we found was that the target identification, looking for diseases at an early stage before somebody's dying, when
Right,
it's still possible to
right,
take maybe preventative care approaches,
right.
this is something that is failing in the diagnostic space. And we saw that back in 2006, 2007. We sought out an approach that was more accurate for target identification, bought a system for $1 million, converted ourselves into a nonprofit, and then partially funded various researchers around the globe and tracked them. And so this project, True Bearing Diagnostics and TrueNav, our infection diagnostic, is a result of years of de-risking. And then the Center for Advanced Innovation found us, and we came together. And as one of those smaller companies that are out there and that have a valid approach, that is what the Center for Advanced Innovation has done, is taken that and given more liftoff. This is incredibly important in this small startup space. Thank you. Rosemarie has a level of brilliance that is rare in our community, much less in the world. And to have found a group like the Center for Advanced Innovation with a leader like Rosemarie Truman, who has this not just charisma, but a brain like an incredible, brilliant star, and to be able to look at numerically and texturally and diligently to understand what it is that is necessary to make a startup succeed. It's phenomenal. It takes a community of unique individuals to see what's possible and then to make it fly. And that's what we're about, is giving wing to making the world a better place. And, you know, in spite of all of the challenges, we push forward and we have confidence that it's possible. And then we just execute.
Execution is critical. I mean, basically, you don't do anything without execution. You basically sit around and eat bonbons, and then, here's execution. I mean, I'm teasing a little bit, but the thing is that it's most people don't really understand about execution.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the reasons. I mean, the opportunity that we have is so large. So for example, often people will ask me, well, why don't you just commercialize now? And because we have an ability to really impact healthcare on a broad scale, we have decided that, and in addition, because of the fact that the FDA is taking an ever expanding kind of reach within their regulatory scope, we believe it's very important to have FDA clearance before we fully commercialize. And with that in mind, we will, we are teed up, as I mentioned, with Mayo and University of Virginia and Johns Hopkins and all that, to move forward, and the Children's Hospital DC and GW, to move forward with FDA clearance and to have them participate as a part of that process. But once we have completed that, and during that process, we will also be developing out relationships with payers, which means insurance companies, and CMS, which means the CPT code. All of these are really important parts of that execution. As we're working towards the FDA clearance, and while that study is being undertaken, in parallel, I'll be working on developing out relationships with insurance companies, which are called also payers in the lingo of the day, and also with CMS, which is the governmental body that determines the CPT codes. Those are the codes that allow for payment. And so these are very important to have. It's not just that you have a good idea, nor that you just have FDA clearance, but you also have to have payment possible. Now, one of the great things is, because we are focused on abdominal and specifically chronic pain initially, that's for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a low bar through FDA clearance. It's not as difficult as, for example, other things might be, like joint replacement or hospital-derived infection. These are all more critical. And so first, we'll do the abdominal pain approach and then expand once we have that initial FDA clearance. And the reason for that is so that we have this foundation that is stable and strong, allowing us then to make a change, a shift for healthcare. And really, that's all about giving the doctor a tool in their toolbox, allowing them to make decisions based on real information rather than kind of a 60% accuracy rate that they currently have. That's before CT scans, before exploratory surgery. And the numbers of things like exploratory surgery that are undertaken right now, it's an incredible number, which would even be more because of the fact that many physicians go in with exploratory surgery, and the minute they find something, they switch the code. So it's
Yeah.
no longer exploratory. So technically, almost double of the current numbers are that. Now, in terms of infection, let's just talk about numbers. There are 16 million cases going to the hospital a year for infection. That means that we will be addressing what is a very large market when we're talking about this abdominal pain. Currently moving towards the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference that'll be happening in January of 2025, just in a few days. And this, actually, True Bearing Diagnostics, we are a badged attendee at that conference, which means we're one of the very few.
It's a
We're one of the very few companies in this region that are actually tracked by JP Morgan and Piper Sandler and things like
because you're the best of the best. Mm. The best of the best. And
that. Now we just have to knock on wood and work hard and convince everyone that they're, actually going to be incredibly lucky to be a part of something so tremendously
but
beneficial to humanity.
you're always perfect.
No, that's not true. Not perfect,
That's true.
but work hard.
Remember, perfect is the enemy of good. Perfect. And I always love you. And you're gonna do a great job, and I know it. So
Thank you so much, Rosemary. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
welcome.